What is up, everybody, and welcome back to On the Diamond and Into the Deep. As always, I am your host, Mahal, and we are recording post-game Monday, May 6th. It is post-game of a 3-1 loss to the Minnesota Twins in Game 1 of a 4-game set with those Twins at Target Field, a place where past few years the Mariners have struggled, and it's not a fun place to play, I'll be honest. But they lose game 1 3-1, as I just said. They will continue tomorrow as Emerson Hancock will face Bailey Ober. Then we'll have Kirby and Paddock on Wednesday, with Logan Gilbert and Pablo Lopez facing off on Thursday in a Thursday afternoon matinee game. So, today we will talk the Minnesota series. We will talk a massive series win at Minute Maid Park in Houston. A series in which the Mariners, again, should have swept. And that can't keep happening. You gotta get to points where if you're playing well enough to sweep, you sweep. You gotta win these games. And look, they're still in first place as of right now. I haven't checked what the Rangers have done, but they're still in first place as of now, and the Rangers are losing 2-0 in the top of the 8th right now. Keep tabs on that. But, as I was saying, Mariners won the series in Houston, and we've got some stuff to talk about, so we will talk a little bit about the fantastic streak, the historic streak the Mariners pitching staff had. 6 straight series wins the Mariners have had. We'll talk a little April recap, and we'll talk about one dude in particular who has been unbelievable to start the year. And it was a dude that wanted to toot my own horn, but it was a dude that I really liked before the season. And I'm sure if you've been following, you know who I'm talking about now. But if you don't, I guess you're going to have to listen till then to find out. Let's start in Houston. Game 1. Where to start? This one was a tough loss. I don't think there is any question that this was a tough loss for the Mariners. This was a game they should have won. It's pretty simple. They lost 5-3. You're like, oh, but they lost by 2 runs. That's not that close. And it's close. But it's also closer than it looks. A brutal 7th inning for the Mariners really led to this loss. Jorge Polanco came up clutch with a big-time homer to start the game off in the 3rd inning. That gave the Mariners a 1-0 lead. It was a solo homer. They would also add on to the lead with the 2-run homer by Dylan Moore into the Crawford box's first row. That's how we do it. You take advantage of the ballpark. I talked about that before the series. You got to take advantage of where you're playing. It can't be a thing that just one team takes advantage of. And if it is just one team, don't let it be you. Now, Mariners only struck out 9 times, and the fact that I have to say only before that is crazy. I'm at the point now where if this lineup's not striking out double-digit times, I'm like, oh, wow, what an offensive performance. But they still struck out 9 times. It's a lot. That's still a lot. All right? That can't happen. Back to the 7th inning. Mariners are up 3-1 heading into the 7th inning. You're feeling like you're a little bit on cruise control. Kirby has been fantastic. There's no way around that. I've seen a lot of discussion now that is questioning why he got pulled before the 7th inning. After the game, it came out that he allegedly has a little bit of a knee injury, a little bit of a tweak, and they wanted to get him out of the game to protect his knee. Now, when Kirby talked about it, it was a little bit weird. I've seen people speculating that he was weird about it because they told him to say that as almost like an excuse. Sorry. Almost as like an excuse. Now, I don't believe that. I don't think that's why. I think that they pulled him just to protect him in general. I think they felt like their bullpen has been good enough, and it has been good enough to be able to trust it for 3 innings against this Astros team to be able to hold down a 3-1 lead. And I believe it's been good enough to do that too. If I were the Mariners, I would have trusted your bullpen in that situation. I don't blame them for taking out Kirby at 88 pitches. Would I have left him in? Maybe. But also I trust my bullpen to be able to get that win out. It is the first major bullpen issue that they've had. Alright, so I don't want to hear, and they've had some issues here and there, but I don't want to hear everyone losing their minds over the bullpen. The bullpen has been very good so far. They are going to probably need another arm closer to the deadline or sooner. They're going to need someone that can be that middle to high leverage dude, preferably on the high leverage end, so you don't have to use Stanek as much in that role. But it hasn't been bad. It was a hiccup, and that sucks, but it hasn't been horrible, y'all. Back to Kirby, though. I think Kirby was just frustrated that they lost the game, that he came out of the game. I don't think there's any sort of real worry there. I think the injury isn't necessarily a ghost injury. I don't want to speculate too much. I don't think it's a ghost injury. I think it's a little injury. I think it's something he could pitch through if they really wanted him to, but I think that they were feeling pretty good about the game, and they would rather have been cautious about that in order to keep him healthy, because the most important thing is keeping your dudes healthy right now. Well, maybe not the most important thing, but it's one of the most important things. Keep your dudes healthy, win ball games. If Kirby goes down with a knee injury, we're talking about this completely differently. You're talking about this like, why didn't you pull him after 6? And if the Mariners had won this game, we're probably not talking about this at all. Because 88 pitches is quite a few pitches. You probably have about 12 left in the game, and that's maybe enough to go an inning. If it's later in the season, you're probably going that inning. But this early in the season, in an April game, you're not going to push it. That said, back into the bullpen, it was a little bit unlucky. Alright, it was. Gave up some very soft contact. Altuve had the go-ahead RBI with a little bunt that Rojas probably should have been a little bit farther in on, but also, what a freaking bunt. I hate the dude. I hate this little man, but God, he's so good. And as a little man myself, like, he's a little bit inspirational, but, like, I don't like him. I really don't. I really don't like him at all. Also, the bullpen needs to control the walks. You can't walk that many dudes. And it was a weird occasion in which Spire had a rough outing. And they had Thornton, Spire, Stanek all had a little bit tough outings. And that's not going to happen often. It's going to happen every once in a while, but it's not going to happen often. And it's not something to lose your minds about, y'all. Just like one loss here against Minnesota is not something to lose your mind about. It was a frustrating loss. Striking out 14 times and looking terrible is frustrating. I understand that. I was frustrated. Had this been 2 hours ago, I probably would be talking about this completely differently. But you have to relax. You have to let these emotions not get the best of you. Now, continuing on to Game 2 of the Astros series. 2 hits for Polanco, 2 hits for Garver, 2 hits for, I don't even want to say his name right now, Ty France. So that is good to see all 3 of those dudes getting 2 hits, especially when there's lefty on the mound. That's what you want to see. You want to see them getting hits. And the lineup only struck out 6 times. Again, I hate that I even have to talk about this. It's kind of like the payroll thing during the offseason where, like, you don't want to have to talk about it, but you kind of got to talk about it because it's kind of a big deal. Sorry, I'm like hella thirsty. It's kind of a big deal. You kind of have to talk about it. The other thing you kind of have to talk about is Cy Gilbert, Logan Young. I don't know what to call him, y'all. We could be looking at a special season from Logan Gilbert, and that's all I'm going to say. And wow, what a start for Logan Gilbert as he wins Pitcher of the Week for your Seattle Mariners. And if you don't know what that means, it means the pitcher that was the best over the course of the whole week, which means the pitcher that was the best over the Atlanta Braves series and the Houston Astros series, and that's Logan Gilbert. You want to talk about it? 8 innings, 2 hits, whole lot of nothing on the scoreboard, 4 walks, 6 strikeouts, got 13 whiffs, was averaging 97.9, was averaging 95.9, so basically 96, was up to almost 98 at 97.9 on the fastball. The cutter was up to 95, which is fantastic to see a cutter that high. Usually your cutter is around 90, 91, but to see it up to 93-ish is fantastic to see. He is pumping gas. Curveball average 83, so there is disparity there, and that is something you want to see. This pitch mix that Logan Gilbert has right now is something else. He has always been consistent, but he's now consistently really freaking good. Really, really freaking good. He is also, as we get into our April recap a tiny bit, he's also going to be our pitcher of the month. As again, his pitch mix has been pretty freaking ridiculous. It has been unbelievable. Truly it has been unbelievable. I don't think that he is being talked about enough. Let me pull up his stats for the month of April. Fangraphs, Logan Gilbert. As I was saying, his pitch mix has been really otherworldly. And I know I'm getting off track a little bit here, but I want to talk about Logan Gilbert because he has been really special. Really special. Okay. Month of March/April. 40 innings on the dot. He gave up just 5 home runs, just 9 runs, all of which were earned. Had 44 strikeouts. Opponents had an average of 163 against him. On base average, 213 against him. 319 slug against him. WOBA, 237 against him. He only walked 9 hitters. Getting into advanced stats, he had 9.9 strikeouts per 9, 2 walks per 9, struck out 30% of his hitters, walked only 6, had a whip of .8, which means he was giving up an eighth of a base runner an inning, basically. Batting average on balls in play against him was 196. He left 92% of runners on base. Getting in some batted ball data, opponents had a 38% ground ball, 43% fly ball, only 17% line drive against him. Only give up 30% hard contact. The dude was lights out in March and April. Lights freaking out. You look at his baseball savant, which I am pulling up right now. Forgot to open this right before recording. But you look at his baseball savant, his fastball run value, 97th percentile, breaking ball run value, 98th percentile, pitching run value, 100th percentile, extension, 100th percentile, fastball velo, 82nd percentile, strikeout percentage, 78th percentile. His pitch mix this season is a 4-seamer at 32% of the time, a slider at 26% of the time, a cutter at 20% of the time, a splitter at 14% of the time, a curveball at 5% of the time, and he's thrown just 4 sinkers. If you want to count that up, that is 6 pitches. Basically 5, but 6 pitches. that he can utilize. Opponents are slugging 053 against the splitter with an 056 X slug. Their average against it, 053, expected batting average, 044. Getting a 45% whiff on it. The splitter has been unbelievable with 14 strikeouts in only 19 at-bats. Which, if you want to do the math there, wow. 14 strikeouts in 20 plate appearances. Let's see. 14 divided by 20. 14 strikeouts. 70% of the 70% strikeout. His slider, if you want to look at the slider, is getting a 43% whiff. His fastball is only getting slugged 317 with a 167 average against. Curveball 125 average against. Cutter 167 average against. The worst X slug he has this season is against his slider, and it's 524. The second worst is his fastball, and it's 408. Logan Gilbert has been lights out. He has been a stud at the top of the Mariners' rotation. The Mariners have 4 dudes in their rotation right now that I would love to see pitch in a playoff series. You can really only throw 3 of them, so you're probably throwing Bryce Miller in the bullpen. And my, oh my, is that dangerous. But we'll talk postseason as we get there. Back into the Houston series. Game 2. Urias. My dog. I hated on you. I really hated on you before the season. But that was a tank, my boy. What was it, 420 dead center or so? Come on now. Cal Raleigh, also with a homer. He had 2 in the series. This was his first. They got Framber out after 5 1/3 innings. Fantastic. Fantastic. Fantastic game 2. As they went on their way to a big 5-0 victory. Now, let's get into yesterday. 5-4 victory for the Mariners over Houston. Big dumper hits big dumps in big dumping moments. Tie game. Top 9. Josh Hader. 0-2 pitch into the Crawford boxes, out of the Crawford boxes, scorched. Game-winning home run it would end up to be. It was the go-ahead in the top of the 9th. The Mariners brought in left in Andres Munoz after he had to clean up the mop for frickin' Ryan Stanek, who makes me feel like I'm watching Fernando Rodney all over again. But that's okay. Big dumper dumps. Extend this man. Extend the dumper. Extend him. He is your player of the series, as he got 2 home runs in this series, including the game winner. That was really the series winner in game 3. Also, Nuke freaking Rayleigh. Second deck right field. Bye-bye. First Mariners home run. Crushed. Josh Rojas, 3 for 4. Home run away from the cycle. This game was, as Eugenio Suarez would say, good vibes only. Mostly good vibes only. The pitching gave up 4 runs, but good vibes only. Julio and Haggerty, pinch hit, were the only people without hits. Bryce Miller was solid. He gave up 4 runs, and he ended the streak of 21 straight games where the starting pitcher of the Seattle Mariners gave up 2 or less earned runs, and he did it giving up 2 mistakes for 2 homers, one of which was a slider inside on left-handed hitter John Singleton that really that pitch should just not be thrown. Bryce was solid. He got hit hard, though, in the game. But on the pitching, Andres Munoz comes in to clean up the job for Ryan Stanek. 2 outs. Throws 1 pitch. Gets a little pop out. Gets a little fly out. The Mariners head top 9. As we know, the dumper dumps. Lead 5-4. Munoz comes in. Shuts the door. 1, 2, 3. And the Mariners go on to win the game. Win the series. In big dumping fashion. Well done. 6 straight series wins now for the Mariners, in which they're not even up to their best. Their pitching is probably about as good as it's going to get. Maybe not the bullpen, but the starting pitching is about as good as it's going to get. But wow. Wow. The lineup has sucked. And I know they've been about 4th overall in terms of WRC plus during that stretch, but I mean, still, really just not great at all. Really been pitiful, but that's okay. Let's get into the Minnesota series, shall we? We are now going to get into the Minnesota series. Let's recap today. And I don't want to talk a lot about this because I don't want to say it feels like an outlier, but I feel like this is the type of game that could send them into the rest of the series and they could start just crushing the ball. That is a frustrating loss. Really frustrating loss. I don't really think there's any way else to put it. 3-1 loss today for the Mariners. Castillo was dominant through 5 innings. Dominant. Heads into the 6th and the 7th, gives up 1 run in each of those. Head into the 6th, gives up a run. Mariners then get a run back in the top half of the 7th, and then they give up the dagger. Really, they give up the dagger really in the 7th, to get the lead to 2. And then Thornton comes in, gives up a little quick hit to make it 3-1, and that really was the final straw in the game. And you just know Johan Duran is going to shut this team down, and he did. He made them look stupid. I was making guacamole by that point because I'd rather make guacamole than watch them strike out 14 times in the baseball game. They struck out 5 times in the first, 2 innings, 3 innings? Like, just, God, just terrible. I mean, really, really terrible. For the first 3 innings, they were averaging just about 3 strikeouts an inning. They were 1 away from, God. I mean, 1 away from being 1 away from 2 strikes an inning. But, come on. You have 3 outs in an inning. That shouldn't happen. Against the dude that's making his 4th career Major League start. And I know he's good and he has good stuff, but you shouldn't be getting shut down like that. Really, you really shouldn't. And I mean, God, just so frustrating. I want to talk about Ty France really shortly before I get into some more less fun stuff, really. Before I get into the lineup as a whole. But Ty France it ended up being called back from an error. I'm going to call it an error. It was like a ground ball, basically, the bouncing ball down the first base line. It looked like it might have bounced off the base slightly, give it a weird hop. But it just kind of skipped over France's glove. And I'm not a Major League player, but I feel like you should be able to at least knock that ball down. And I know it really didn't end up mattering too much, but that feels like the type of thing that you should be able to knock that ground ball down, or just make that play. that ball wasn't hit hard enough for me to feel like it was like, oh, okay, I understand it bounced off the base, whatever. You should be able to get a little tiny anything on it. And it just like he kind of reached down and he was just kind of stuck there. It was like, it's like in Little League, right? When you're told to get down and you don't get all the way down, it just goes under your glove. And it's just like, but instead of getting under it, it was going over it. It's just like, feel like you can make that play. Feel like you can avoid that mistake. And he just is brutal at the plate tonight too. I mean, they were brutal overall at the plate, but he was especially brutal. And 14 strikeouts on the night. Just 3 hits. I mean, I don't know if there's much more to really cover. Rangers have now come back. They're up 4-2. So it looks like we're going to lose the lead in the division. And I know it's only May 6th, but it still sucks. I like being in first place. It makes me feel so happy. 2 walks, 3 hits, 1 RBI, 14 strikeouts. Luis Castillo, 6 2/3, 3 hits, 3 walks, 3 runs, all of which were earned. Thornton went an inning and a third, 2 strikeouts. Castillo had 7 strikeouts. Thornton gave up 2 hits, no runs, but he did give up the hits that scored the 3rd run. Mariners let Woods Richardson, the starter, get through 6 innings, 1 hit, 1 walk, 8 strikeouts. It was brutal. I don't really know what else to say about it, to be honest. Even Josh Rojas did a whole lot of nothing tonight. Julio had 2 strikeouts. Rojas had 2 strikeouts. Polanco had a strikeout. Haniger 2 strikeouts. Raleigh 1 strikeout. He also had 2 walks, though, so that's okay. France, 2 strikeouts. Garver, a strikeout. Rayleigh, 2 strikeouts. Moore, a strikeout. Everybody in the lineup had at least a strikeout. Majority of them had 2. 14 strikeouts in 9 innings. 14 strikeouts in 29 at-bats. You want to think about that. Means they struck out. In terms of at-bats, they struck out. What is that? Let's talk about in terms of plate appearances. 31 plate appearances, 14 strikeouts. 14 divided by 31, that is a 45% strikeout rate for the night. Not good enough. You need that at least 20% lower, guys. I mean, yeah. Let's go to Game 2. Let's preview some stuff. Shall we? Game 2. This is a big one. If you want to split this series, you kind of need this game. In general, you kind of need this game. Because I don't want not only to lose 2 games in a row, but I don't want to go into the last 2 games of the series knowing that the best we can do is split. And that really the best we can do is win 1 out of 4 games. That is not a place I want to be in. But let's talk about why we could win this game. Bailey Ober. He's not walking very many dudes. He's getting some chase. Oh, we're toast. We're done. He is walking just about 2 hitters per 9, so not a lot. But he's giving up a ton of fly balls, a ton of barrels. What does that mean? Dinger City. Barreling the ball up, putting it in the air, means that you can hit home runs. He's getting a 52.2% fly ball rate. I believe. I said this last series. I don't even want to say it. I'm going to say it, but no, I'm going to switch it. Mitch Garver, homering. I think Mitch Garver's going to get a homer. He's been hitting the ground hard. Wow, he's been hitting the ball on the ground hard. I think this is going to play into it because I think that he's going to be able to elevate a ball and hit it out to left field. Bookmark this, whatever you want to do. Minute 30:17. Mitch Garver. Left field. Game 2. 2-run homer with Jorge Polanco on base. I think it's going to be more left center. I'm trying to be like Mike Blowers here. More like left center on a... Gonna be fair. You're going to be a right-handed hitter on a cutter. I think he's going to get a cutter at the top half of the zone, kind of middle, but in the top middle. Cutter. Left center field. 6 rows back. No doubter. 2-run homer with Polanco on first base. Bookmark it. Right now. Bookmark it. It's happening. Back to Bailey Ober, though. His fastball is getting killed. So maybe that's the wrong bet. Maybe the home run's going to be on a fastball. I can see some home runs happening, and if it does happen, I think you could win this game. You're going to need Hancock to have a good start. He's going to be facing a lot of left-handed hitters, which, yeah. I'm not even going to say anything about that, but that's what I got for you. Just, okay. Left-handed hitters from Bailey Ober are going to get a lot of fastball changeup. That's going to be the combo you're mostly seeing. You're going to see a little bit of a curveball. But right-handed hitters, fastball, cutter, slider a lot of the time. That is mostly what you're going to see as a right-handed hitter. So watch for his usage in terms of the curveball, because he's going to use that to win some strikes every once in a while. But that's going to be a lot of the time against left-handed hitters. He's mostly going to be fastball, cutter against right-handed hitters. The slider is going to mix in about 15-20% of the time. 10-15% of the time. Look at how he's using it. He's leaving 62% of runners on base, so what that tells me is that the Mariners need to get some runners on, and you're going to be able to score some of those runners in. That means he's leaving just about 2 of every 3 hitters on base, so that means about 1 out of every 3 hitters should be scoring. 1 out of every base runner should be scoring. So get runners on. You can't have 3 base runners like they did tonight? No, 5 base runners like tonight. That means you're going to get 1 run again. So, math. Look at me. I'm doing math. This is what happens when you get a day off school. You still have to do math. What happens when you do a field trip? Again, 52% fly ball rate. He's consistently been getting 6-7 innings. See if you can get him out before 6. If you can get him out, similar to Framber, 5 1/3, get a couple runs off him, I feel great about this. I think you could win this game, but you're going to need a good start from Hancock. Back to some worrisome stuff. He has been a whole lot better in terms of blitz. He's been a whole lot better at home. But back to positives, he's given up a lot of damage with runners on. So, again, get some freaking runners on and win this game. Game 3, George Kirby. Chris Paddock. Former prospect of, I believe, the Padres he was with. He's a pretty solid prospect. I remember when he came up. Paddock. Very good walk. He has struggled to get strikeouts, though. Probably not going to struggle against the Mariners. Probably going to look like a Cy Young winner. That's what most people look like. His fastball has been his best pitch, so look for his usage around the fastball. The changeup and the slider have gotten killed. Like, killed. So what does that tell you? Mariners are going to strike out 10 times against the changeup and the slider combined, with 15 whiffs combined, something like that. Curveball has overperformed a little bit, but it has a very good expected batting average. So look for his usage on that, similar to Mr. Ober. Let me just confirm that I was right about what Ober had there. But, as I'm saying, Chris Paddock, yes, Ober does have a curveball, 2% of the time. Paddock, look for how he's using that curveball. He has struggled against lefties, but he's been a whole lot better at home, which seems to be a trend here. A lot of these pitchers are a whole lot better at target field than they are away from target field. He has gotten a 43% ground ball rate, so he's going to get the ball in the ground. Mariners need to elevate the ball, and they suck at that. Look to get some runners on, look to get some double plays, because that's what's going to happen, and you know that's what's going to happen. In terms of George Kirby, you're facing lefties. That game plan means it's going to have to change, and that means you're probably going to want to throw a little bit more of the splitter, especially if you can find it. If he can find it, I think he could have a solid outing. I need a new pen. I think he could have a solid outing. But look to see what he can do. Game 4. George Kirby. Pablo Lopez. Former Marlin. Traded for him 2 years ago in fantasy, and he was fantastic. Because he's a really good pitcher. And he's probably going to shut down your Seattle Mariners and look like a Cy Young winner. If you have him in fantasy, or if you don't have him and he's somehow a free agent, or you can trade for him, probably should trade for him before that, because he's probably going to get 30, 40 points in that game, because the Mariners' offense sucks, especially against good pitchers. Unless it's Hunter Green, in which he has zero command, and the Mariners will somehow walk for the first time all season. But yeah, Lopez, really good whiff, really good strikeout, really good walk percentages. So the Mariners are beeped. Yeah, there you know what. He's given up a little bit of hard hit, but Mariners just hard hit smash balls and a foot in front of home plate. That's what Julio does, at least. It's about all he does, at least. He's going to be mostly fastball, sweeper, changeup, and they have all been very good, especially the fastball. The fastball has been ridiculous. I mean, not ridiculous, but it's been ridiculous. In terms of batting average, it's getting hit at a 125 clip. He's given up 3 homers against it, but his opponents are still slugging only 318 or 304 against it with a 318x slug. Opponents are whiffing. Let's just go through the whiff. Four seam 32.6%, sweeper 34.9%, changeup 26.3%. That is mostly going to be thrown against left-handed hitters. The curveball 43.5, and he barely uses the sinker at 5.3%. Look for him to shift that curveball in against the Mariners, especially get some early strikes, and he's going to throw it for strikes probably. And if he starts to get whiff on it, like he can, Mariners might be screwed. They might be screwed. Pretty much. Lopez has been very good. I think there's no question of that. Lopez has given up a 278 batting average on balls in play, which means that anything hit in play, opponents are hitting 278 off of it. What does that tell me? If the Mariners can get the ball in play, they can hopefully get some hits, but they're probably going to strike out a lot, so we'll see. He is only giving up a 13.5 line drive percentage, so the Mariners really are just kind of screwed, if you want to talk about it like that. I want to be positive, and I feel like I'm usually a positive guy, but this series feels like bad vibes to me. This feels like the type of thing where you're losing at least 3 games, and it's frustrating because I feel like they're a good enough team to at least win 3 of these games, and they should win 3 of these games. I just don't think it's going to happen. Opponents are pulling the ball 54% of the time against Mr. Lopez. Mariners are going to pull the ball. What does that tell me? Mitch Garver, who has been pulling the ball extensively, both the Mitches really have been pulling the ball almost too much. They could get into a funk, or they could also crush the ball pulling it. We'll see. He's given up higher average, but way less slug at home, so really it balances out. He's a lot more balanced than the other 2 that they're facing. But all these dudes have been very good at target field, and it could cause the Mariners a lot of problems. And I think it might cause the Mariners a lot of problems. My Mariner for the series is Mr. Jorge Polanco. He had an okay night tonight. He did have a hit. He was one of 3 Mariners with a hit. Him and Mitch Garver both did. I believe Polanco will have a little bit of a revenge series. I think Mitch Garver might too, but I think Polanco probably is more likely. He's been very good recently, and I think he's going to keep it up in a target field, an environment that he's very comfortable in. And he struggled tonight, but I think part of that is emotions. It is tough going to Not that I've experienced it, but it's tough going back to a place you were for 10 years, the place that brought you up, the place that believed in you, the place that trusted you, the place that you were for a decade of your career and brought you up as a 20-year-old. Place really where you grew up and became an adult. So that's an emotional thing for him. This has been his home. But I think he's going to end up having a really good series. He has 3 more games. He does. And I think he will do great. Game 2 is massive. I do not want to understate that. Game 2 is massive. You have to hit around Bailey Ober. If you can get into the bullpen, toast the bullpen a little bit, see what you can do. My keys to the series. I've got 3 main keys. Early runs. Pitching-wise, quality starts. In terms of other hitting, just get on base. Get on base, and you're going to score some runs, hopefully. So get on base. That's what I want to see. Get on base, get some early runs, and get some quality starts. It really has been brutal. I want to talk shortly about Josh Rojas. And let's finish up with some positives. Josh Rojas. Okay. Let's talk about April. Josh Rojas is your Mariners Player of the Month with a 174 WRC+. He slashed 318, 408, 530. If you don't know the math, that is a 938 WRC, 938 OPS. Those are the old school stats. We like the old school stats, but we're new school. We are young. We like the new school stats. Again, 174 WRC+. What does that mean? 74% above average in terms of creating runs. In terms of doing stuff that is advantageous for the team and stuff that brings up your value and your chance of scoring runs. He struck out 12 times to 10 walks, 3 home runs, 21 hits, 6 RBIs. He was fantastic. He really was fantastic. And in general, he has been fantastic. Let's talk about him a little bit more in depth. He has been crushing the fastball and the sinker. That is one thing that Julio Rodriguez has not been freaking doing. So he needs to do that. He really does. He's been hitting the ball hard. I took account for strikeouts to hard hits in the Houston series. Julio Rodriguez, this is. Julio had 7 hard hit balls, 2 strikeouts. Those hard hit balls, though, none of which were elevated. He's got to elevate the ball. He's got to get in the air. And he's got to either lay off those up and in, especially ones out of the zone. But if it's in the zone, you got to figure out a way to get around them. You have to figure out a way to get on them, get around, get your bat around, get your hands to it, pull the ball, crush the ball, get it out. You have to. They're pitching you up and in, and I know he knows that. I really do. But you have to just do it. It has to happen. Josh Rojas' savant page is wowza. Wowza. He is hitting the change, and that is massive because he's seeing a lot of changeups as he's facing mostly right-handed pitchers. Almost entirely right-handed pitchers. Which means, what are they throwing him? Changeups and splitters. Because that is the off-speed pitches that are going to work against him. He's not going to see a lot of sliders. He's going to see a lot of changeups. My question is, how is he going to adjust when he is seeing more left-handed pitchers? And I don't really have an answer for you. He is chasing, walking, and striking out at a more normal clip than he was last year. Last year was a little bit of an outlier. I feel really good about that. He has also been a fantastic leadoff hitter. I don't know if he's going to stay there when JP gets back. Probably shouldn't. He probably just goes back to 9, but he's been really good there. And in terms of WRC+, he has a 198 WRC+ on the season, which is top 3 in all of baseball. So, Josh Rojas, bright spot, giving us something to be joyful about, giving us something to talk about. Anyways, thank you all so much for listening. This has been another episode of On the Diamond and Into the Deep with your boy Mahal. This was episode 30. We made it to 30. This is crazy, y'all. If you made it this far, hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the follow if you haven't already. Give it a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. Follow on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram. I've been pretty active on Twitter, especially at Diamond and Deep. I post game day stuff on Instagram. Again, at Diamond and Deep. TikTok is at Diamond and Deep. I'll be posting more clips on there. If you want some shorter podcast type stuff, I'll be posting podcast clips on there more. Go Mariners! Let's go at least with this series. Get 2 out of 2, and let's go back to T-Mobile Park against Oakland for a beautiful weekend, and let's get another one in there. Peace, y'all. Go Mariners.